The exception was Robert Reed, who had a bit of a problem doing comedy. Reed had studied at the British Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts in London and performed Shakespeare on Broadway in the 1950s and early 60s.
When I was very young and stupid, I wanted to be the world's greatest classical actor. And then a few years later, I thought, well, I'd just like to be a good classical actor. And then it all changes.
Director John Rich and co-star Ann B. Davis picked up on Reed's discomfort.
He had come from a rather wonderful series called The Defenders with E.G. Marshall, and he was the young attorney, and they had done serious work. I think he was looking for that, and he was wrong in taking the role.
Don't you like it here anymore?
No, sir. Not as much as I used to.
Well, don't worry about it. You know, when a person isn't happy where he is, he has every right to look for a place where he can be happier. You know what beats me is how very wrong we were. We all love you. And we thought you loved us, too.
Oh, I do. It's just... Well, I better be going. I thought you'd be mad.
Why? Listen, you wouldn't want me to stay around if I didn't want to, would you?
You have to. You're the father.
That's very true.
Bob was not a happy man on that set. Because for one thing, he didn't want to do the pilot. It was a contractual thing. He had to do the pilot. And I think he was disappointed that he sold. I mean, he had quite a classical training background. And I don't really think that working on a children's show was his idea of where he wanted to go with his career. And so that, you know, there was that tension right from the start.
In public, though, Reed made out everything was fine.
Shoot, I was doing a play in New York at the same time I was doing The Defenders. And I'd play comedy at night and drama in the daytime. It's, first of all, I think as an actor, when you're doing something that's supposed to be funny, you can't wait to, I mean, you get off stage and you're serious. Or if you're doing something that's serious, you can't wait to give a gag line when you get off. It's an easy transition to make, I think.
But on the set of The Brady Bunch, Reed wasn't quite so easygoing. His frustration over the role of Mike Brady led to frequent open arguments with producer Sherwood Schwartz. Reed threatened to quit several times during the first season.
There were a number of times he came to my office and just said, I got to get out of this, and how did you ever talk me into it, and I can't deal with this man, and a couple of times he threatened to hold press conferences and do things.
He was just not a happy camper on our show. He tried to get off it at least 3 times in the first year, and it was a constant struggle for him all the time.
Although Reed never followed through on his threats to quit, he continued to fight with Sherwood Schwartz, his son Lloyd, and anyone else in power. Reed's major gripes revolved around scripts which he thought were juvenile and full of factual errors.
He wanted better scripts, he wanted, and I go, Bob, we're not doing Shakespeare here. Remember that. This is situation comedy with the, you know, the underlying word being comedy. And sometimes he'd find that difficult, you know. I think he really wanted to be doing Shakespeare and grander things.
He once walked off the stage because the script had the wrong population for Poughkeepsie. Instead of 430,000, it was 480,000. I said, well, the writer probably used the previous, you know, you make excuses. It was a lunatic picking, you know. He's not talking about the drama, he's not talking about the comedy. He's talking about simple facts that you can look up in an encyclopedia, which he used to do.
By the end of the first season in the spring of 1970, The Brady Bunch was pulling in modest ratings, and the show's lead actor was constantly threatening to walk out. The prospects didn't look good, but things were about to change. Now, if there's one thing Americans do really well, it's make money. And that goes double for Americans in television. After all, they invented it. So when the Bradys turned the corner and started to grow in popularity, the network bigwigs realised they had a real money spinner. The only people who didn't share in the profits were the Bradys themselves. Even though their popularity zoomed, their paychecks didn't move an inch. By the third season in 1972, the Brady Bunch defied the critics by cracking the ratings top 20 and winning its Friday night time slot. But while the networks pulled in millions in advertising revenue, the people who played the Bradys were basically salary employees. To capitalise on their fame and make some money, the younger cast members formed a musical group, the Brady Bunch Kids. On stage, it was a cheerful revue, but backstage, no one was singing a happy tune.
That divided our group and fractured our group almost irreparably.
As the Brady Bunch built a following in the early 1970s, episode budgets began to grow. New storylines called for location shoots in the Grand Canyon and Hawaii.
The Hawaiian episodes that we filmed, in some respects, was built around my surfing. And growing up in California, the only thing I'd been longer than a Brady was a surfer.
Celebrities were also frequent guest stars. Bobby tossed a ball with American football great Joe Namath. Greg received pitching tips from baseball star Don Drysdale. And Marcia was escorted to a senior prom by pop idol Davy Jones of the MONKEES.
Cheer up, sleepy Jean. Oh, what can it mean to a daydream believer and a homecoming queen?
First time I'd gone on a show, and I was Davy Jones. Instead of an actor, you know, playing a part, I was playing myself. So I figured, hey, I've made it, you know.
The Brady Bunch Kids musical group formed shortly after Davy Jones' appearance on the show. They made several albums that year, and in the spring of 1973, they went on tour. Everything began to unravel when the group demanded that some of their musical numbers be worked into future episodes of the Brady Bunch. They also asked for more money.
The Brady kids were feeling their oats, and we had ideas for directions that we might go that would be in our best interests, whether or not they were in the show's best interests, or whether or not they were following Sherwood's wishes.
Executive producer Sherwood Schwartz was furious at his greedy cast and told them what they could do with their pay rise demands.
They signed certain contracts. I said, I signed a contract. When the rating goes up, I don't run to Paramount and say, hey, the rating went up, I want a raise. I said, when I sign something, I sign.
Tough negotiations with Sherwood Schwartz were too much pressure for Susan Olsen and Eve Plum. Disheartened, they left the musical group. Maureen McCormack soon followed, and by August 1973, the Brady Bunch Kids were history.
We were really starting to get popular, and I think that it could have gone other places if we hadn't had this breakup, this division.
That's the kind of stuff that you usually see immediately in a show, you know, the politics. And it took 5 years for that to develop in our show, but it did happen.
A divided cast returned for the 5th season of the Brady Bunch in the autumn of 1973. The atmosphere became more stressful during the filming of the first episode, shot at an amusement park in Ohio. Eager fans overwhelmed the Bradys at both the park and their hotel.
They had no security, and so we had people like looking in our rooms, following us to our rooms, hanging out in the lobby. I don't know, I'm a very private person. That's really a lousy feeling.
Tensions continued to linger after the amusement park fiasco. While the rest of the country was being torn apart by social changes and the Vietnam War, the Bradys lived in a time warp. The actors grew increasingly frustrated with what they considered outdated dialogue and storylines.
I resented the fact that we didn't get into trouble on the show, and, you know, I thought it too was bland and milquetoast and, you know, non-representative of a child's life back then.
I became more aware that Cindy was supposed to be very adorable and very cute when I started to grow up, and I was very aware that I wasn't as adorable and I wasn't as cute, and I was getting more and more and more awkward, and the scripts weren't really changing.
I sometimes felt very frustrated that we were, you know, couldn't act more normal as parents, you know, raise our voices and show the frustration and the, you know, all that you go through, the angst as a parent. It was all very kind of glossed over.
Creator Sherwood Schwartz still hoped the Brady Bunch would be renewed for a 6th season.
Bob and Sherwood were both like two little umpires on a little league team, and they were both absolutely convinced they were right. It was just a series of knockdown, drag-out fights.
The duo saved their biggest battle for last. They argued during rehearsals for the final show of the 5th series. Reed thought the script about Bobby selling Miracle hair tonic was so stupid they refused to say his lines. Schwartz responded by writing him out of the episode, but an angry Reed refused to leave the set.
He won't go to his dressing room. He insists on staying on the stage. And so Paramount said to me, we will send 2 guards down and carry him off the stage if that's the only way to get him off the stage. I said, no way. Not in front of those kids. I don't want to see their father, Mr. Brady, carted off the set by two uniformed policemen.
The interesting thing about that is that Bob would not leave. He would sit in the background and watch. He's a very complex man.
Reed eventually left the set on his own and did not appear in the episode. Infuriated, Schwartz told studio executives that he was fed up with Reed's antics and suggested the character of Mike Brady either be killed off or recast if the show was picked up for a 6th season. The constant bickering, coupled with declining ratings, were more than enough for the network.
Pretty much out of the blue, on I think it was a Wednesday or Thursday afternoon, I got a call from a gentleman at the network, and he called and said that it was his unpleasant job. Well, first he said, I'm sitting here, Barry, with now a half-gone bottle of bourbon. And I said, well, sounds like you're having a heck of an afternoon. And he said, yeah, but not so pleasant. I've been given the task of informing the cast that the series has been canceled, and there'll be no more new shows.
And I don't want to hear another word about it.
The Brady Bunch was cancelled in May of 1974. The sitcom's demise was a mixed blessing for the cast.
I could have done it for another few years. I wouldn't have minded at all. I enjoyed that. I liked the people. I liked the people on camera. I liked the people off camera. I would have enjoyed doing it for quite a while.
I had bought in a little bit and gotten used to some of the adulation, so saying goodbye, that wasn't going to be something easy to do. But nonetheless, I had another impulse to, you know, just want to just throw it all away.
By the last year, I was ready to go. I think I was, 15. It'd been 5 years, so I may have been ready to go anyway.
Oh, I've had it with this show. Look, I'll call you back, Kay. Bye. Maybe I can find a rerun of a rerun I haven't seen.
When we come back, the Brady Bunch's embarrassing return to television. No one was more excited about the cancellation than Robert Reed, who finally had the opportunity to go after the serious roles he'd always wanted. In 1975, the 43-year-old actor earned his first Emmy nomination for his portrayal of a father and husband who became a transsexual in the drama Medical Center. He added a second nomination later that year for his performance as decadent millionaire Teddy Boyland in the popular miniseries Rich Man, Poor Man. Reed's obsession with shedding his Brady Bunch image didn't carry over to co-star Florence Henderson. In fact, she embraced her motherly persona and in 1975 began a 25-year run as the spokeswoman for cooking oil.
The chicken's got a certain personality.
Ann B. Davis had no worries about being typecast either. She'd already worked in television for over 20 years. But when the Brady Bunch went off air, the 50-year-old performer found few acting roles she liked. Davis became so disillusioned that she decided to make a complete change.
A whole bunch of years there. I'd lived in Los Angeles. I'd worked in the business. I knew what it was like. I'd had playtime. I'd gone to premieres and, all this kind of stuff that one gets caught up in. And it wasn't all that much fun, frankly. And so that when this new life began to happen for me, I was just delighted.
In 1976, Davis sold her house and moved to Denver to be part of a religious commune. She spent her time studying the Bible, working in the community, and acting as a volunteer in a homeless shelter.
I went down twice a week just to do the laundry. People would come in off the street and we had showers for them, and we'd take their dirty clothes and give them clean clothes, and then wash their dirty clothes and give them to somebody else.
While Davis found peace in her post-Brady Bunch days, her younger co-stars weren't having as much luck. In fact, the Brady kids were given a very chilly reception by Hollywood.
Producers and casting directors did not want to hire somebody with my previous image, and I couldn't help but kind of understand that. However, I was very frustrated with the fact that I had this mold on me that I didn't think was fair.
Olsen decided to wait it out and renew her acting career after the Brady Bunch had become a distant memory. The wait would be a long one.